So this character that I played recently, I played this to hardcore to level 94, played in a hardcore private league. It was a trade league, and I got to trade for basically nothing. But I had a lot of fun playing this build, so I want to tell you about it real quick. I could do a tier 10 map, but I want to do something that's nice and easy so that I can have it going in the background while I talk to you. Is this build excellent? Oh my god, it's so much better than I thought it was. I shamelessly stole this build from someone who did a hardcore duo Awakener Race recently. During that Awakener Race, this person played, I'll link their profile information under the YouTube video thing. But this person played a Inquisitor Bladefall Blade Blast character that is LE Overload, that uses a shield, that has 7k life. It's Avatar Fire. And I'm like, what on earth? Why are you taking a hardcore Inquisitor build of all things, and you're not going crit? You're taking a build that people already play. You want to take like the Chieftain Bladefall Blade Blast build that people already play and make it weirder by playing it as an Inquisitor? So it caught my eye, and I wanted to play it, and I did, and it kind of stuck with me. It was much better, much smoother than my expectations would have otherwise led me to believe. So the character ended up being level 94 before I ripped to... What did I rip to? I ripped to Drox. I actually think that's on the screen right now. I ripped to Drox because I thought that my Granite Flask was going to keep me alive against his Fizz hit. It didn't. But I'm going to show you the POB in just a moment here, so let's go over the character. The character has basically just life. All of your damage nodes come from right here. We're fully converting Bladefall Blade Blast into fire damage via Magmatic Strikes, which is 20% and 20% for 40 here, and then 50% from this. And actually, while clearing SSF, by the way, we found some of these. So instead of using gloves that would convert the rest of my damage, I just use these because they're awesome. So my character ended up just using a unique scepter here, Singularity. You could have any number of things for this, but this is not important to the build. What's important to the build is we are Bladefall Blade Blast. I got a Conch Effect helmet at some point, but basically this is Combustion, Spell Cascade, Unleash, and Bladefall in order to put the blades on the ground, which is what you're planning on detonating. Looks like this. And then we detonate them like this. It is a really smooth playstyle, and that surprised me. I thought that like a 2-button playstyle was going to be something that I didn't enjoy. I thought it was going to be some kind of bad version of Essence Drain Contagion. And even then, it's like, why are we playing an Inquisitor in hardcore? So the TLDR of this is it's not only about the immune to ailments. Being immune to ailments in hardcore is excellent. It means that you don't need to worry about being ailment immune on all your gear. You don't need to craft things that say chance to avoid ailments here, chance to avoid ailments here, chance to avoid ailments here. And it allows you to stack up, I don't know, worse gear or life modifiers instead. Just kind of filling out the rest of what you need. So I'm going to hover over what the skill tree looks like here. Basically just like a couple block nodes, some LE Overload, the keystones that are relevant to the build to convert damage. And then we path all the way down here to end up getting some Call of Arms. I do have an extremely lucky SSF jewel here, Unnatural Instinct, that gives me some cast speed and some area of effect. But I'm going to show you this is not necessary. Even if I didn't have this, I would be very, very impressed by this build. So I'm going to flip over to POB real quick. Bam. Wait, hold on. Bam. There we go. So now if the realm shuts down, it's fine because we're no longer in PoE. We're playing POB. This game crashes less anyways. So what does the Ascendancy give us? It doesn't only give us the immune to ailments while we are standing on consecrated ground, which we always are. It also gives us a bunch of speed. So I had a friend of mine who was recently playing a Bladefall Blade Blast Chieftain, and he said like, yeah, the dexterity is a real pain in the butt, and I have to take like basically every dex node on the tree and get all dex on my gear because I'm playing Bladefall Blade Blast. I need a lot of dexterity, but the other thing that stood out to him is his mana was way bad. He did not like his mana situation with the build. So for me, because I opted into playing this build instead, I was playing an Inquisitor, still Bladefall Blade Blast. I get 15 flat mana regen per second while I'm standing on consecrated ground, which is surprisingly relevant. It means that my mana situation was just much better playing an Inquisitor than it would be otherwise. I get a little bit of mitigation from this, less elemental damage taken, and nearby enemies take increased elemental damage. Because we just talked about this in stream a little bit, I want to point this out. whenever it says less enemies deal less elemental damage, it would be better for me if it said reduced elemental damage taken. We just had a conversation recently about like more is the opposite of less, increase is the opposite of reduce. But if you're trying to get down to 0, if you're trying to be as tanky as possible, then something that said like, you know, nearby enemies deal reduced elemental damage, that would be better for me, right? Because reduce is a stronger way to get down to 0, but that's kind of an aside, so we can talk about that later if we need to. What else do we get? Damage. We get tons and tons of cast speed. One of the things that really stands out to me about the Chieftain Ascendancy is it's a rather well-rounded Ascendancy. It's got a lot of good stuff offensively and defensively, but it has no speed, no attack speed, no cast speed, no movement speed. It has like no quality of life, basically. It's just damage, defenses, big numbers, right? Like here, you get all this speed. It feels really good to play, and that's kind of what surprised me about it. Like I could totally play this build to 100 if I wanted to, just like zooming around, all my attack speed, all my cast speed, makes shield charge feel excellent. Even though I'm using a unique singularity scepter that I found that has no attack speed on it, it felt quite good. So, is there anything else that really stands out in the skill tree? Yeah, let's talk just for a second about Unnatural Instinct. You see my AoE radius right here is at AoE radius of 30. And the biggest thing that I gain from this is all the AoE nodes here. I get a little bit of cast speed, I gain a little bit of damage as well, but I've got Bladefall Blade Blast set to 10 blades here. And I've got my configuration set for pretty conservative estimates of what's going on. Remember, I don't have any DPS flasks. I guess I have a sulfur flask, but don't worry about that. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 points dedicated to Unnatural Instinct, which gives me 30 radius and 1.528. So, excuse me, 1.528 with 30 radius. Let's turn off these 5 points. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 31 radius. So 1.528, right? So we're slightly less damage. Well, we could spend this 5th point to get even bigger radius for even more overlap. I kind of like it. This Unnatural Instinct, it's awesome. It's really cool. I'm glad that I had it. It's a good piece of swag, but like, do I really need it? Like, realistically, no. You could spend those points anywhere else instead, and the build would still feel excellent. So I want to talk about the other unique item that really stands out here, SNS Gentle Touch. This thing is the equivalent of an explodey body piece, or body armor, which I obviously don't have because I'm a hardcore SSF, basically. So these gloves dropped for me. They were incredible. They felt awesome to use. They made farming and heist feel great. But if you want more damage, then these are not a very good option, right? These remove the ability for me to use a curse offensively, so they take flammability out of the build. They also remove the ability for me to convert the rest of my damage, because currently I only have 90% of my physical damage converted to fire damage. So the gloves that I grabbed instead, I made these. These have life and lightning res on them. Awesome. So I use these instead. Watch my damage numbers of 1.45. Bloop. 1.45 to 1.564. So it's like roughly a 10% damage increase because you're converting the rest of the 10% damage from your build. Good. Outside of that, because I didn't have flammability, I dropped one of my rings that wasn't particularly good, and I grabbed a ring that dropped for me in Delve. It looks really good, but realistically, this thing has flammability on hit, and it has tier 1 life. That's basically all that I need, because I'm so overcapped on all of my resistances. So I have flammability on hit with life. We click here. We have 1.7. So this was my very first character that ever killed Awakener in hardcore. I don't play much hardcore. I've played in the past. The last time that I played a hardcore was when Uber Elder was like the relevant endgame boss. So that's pretty good. This was the first character that I ever took to like Awakener in hardcore since Awakener was introduced. And I had, let's see, about 1.7 mil DPS with 10 blades. I don't really know how to calculate the DPS. Give me a break. But I do want to point out to you that I also did not have Wave of Conviction because I did not add it to the build. I just totally decided not to. It wasn't part of the gem links that I had. I wasn't going to worry about it. It's obviously an excellent inclusion, and if I had a rare scepter instead of the unique scepter that I was using this whole time, I would have put it on, because I would have done trigger socketed spell when you use a skill as a suffix crafted on. So if we add this thing in, and we go like this, We have 1.712 as my current DPS against Cyrus. If I change this to fire exposure, we're all of a sudden at 2 mil DPS. This build is a Ellie Overload, Avatar of Fire, random gear, hardcore thing that feels excellent. On 10, like conservative estimate of 10 blades, which with like repositioning and whatnot, remember for the most part, all of these builds that you see that are putting blades in the ground using Bladefall, they're using Unleash. They can reposition if they need to. They can have these things charge up faster. Like, I don't know. I think Unleash Bladefall is great, but I've been estimating all of my DPS with 10 blades here. So that's my strategy for it. For this, it's like we have 2 mil DPS with nothing and a rare scepter. And it's like, holy crap, we're not even crit. This build's incredibly smooth for having 7.3 K life here. Defensively, let me show you what's going on. I don't have any sources of Fizz taken as Ellie. I crafted the helmet just in order to get concentrated effect. If you wanted to, you could even use unique gloves that have supported by a concentrated effect. I think there's a unique pair of gloves called Worm Sign. So you could rely on that, but you just wouldn't have the same amount of conversion from conversion gloves, right? So I opted for the Conk Effect helmet instead. Okay, defenses, right? I can show you this in the calculations tab. I'm gonna highlight both of these things. I try to do this as often as possible because I love this new feature of PoB. It's been here since like middle of Harvest, maybe something like that. But we're in Heist League now, and I think everyone should use this. So if we have EHP calculation mode, which is right here where my mouse is, I have it set to average. I think average is great. If you want to get more specific, you can set it to melee or projectile or spell or projectile spell, but I think just average is fine. So on average, I think most builds, especially most caster builds, do not have enough effective HP against physical damage hits. So the number that I look at most often when I'm reviewing people's POBs is this number on the very bottom left. This is your effective hit pool against Fizz. There are other relevant numbers here as well. You can see my Chaos Res is a little bit low. My effective HP, my EHP against Chaos damage is only about 20,000. But we're about 63, 63, 66 for the other resistances here. A little bit higher for fire because we have +1 maximum fire res right there. So I think on average, any given spellcaster probably does not have enough effective HP against physical damage. This one does, because it's hardcore, and it's literally just life nodes on the tree. So we have life nodes everywhere. We also have Enduring Cry, which helps us generate endurance charges in the configuration tab. We have Fortify most of the time, but I'm going to leave this unchecked for just a moment. So if we're clearing, we have endurance charges, we have our life or all of our flasks up here. Let's say we're stutter stepping forward, and maybe we don't actually have Fortify at the moment. So our current mitigation is about, our current effective HP is about 52,000. If we're shield charging as well, if we have our Fortify, we move up to 65,000. And if we come over here, which this is what I ended up using, I had cast when damage taken Immortal Call. I opted for like level 10 Immortal Call with a level 8 cast when damage taken. When this thing pops, like this, all of a sudden we have 170,000 effective HP against physical damage. This build felt really, really smooth. If I'm honest with you, the reason that this character died is I was kind of done playing it, and I didn't think that I was in particular danger, so I wasn't really paying attention. Story of my life, right? Story of hardcore. Like, you just stop paying attention, your brain floats away, you start reading Twitch chat, something else happens, and you're dead. But, yeah, this character for heisting, for leveling, like it leveled super fast, totally fun to play. If you were in a trade league, the kinds of things that you could look for would be like a rare scepter. You'd be looking for like maybe +1, maybe double +1 for like all spell skill gems, all Fizz spell skill gems. Plus flat damage as well. Ultimately, you'd be looking for an empty suffix that has trigger socketed spell when you use a skill. Could this build go crit? Yeah, it could, but at that point, it's kind of a different build, right? Like, if you want to take this exact thing and just make it crit, like, you're going to sacrifice a lot of the defenses and a lot of the things that made this build feel so good. I kind of want to play the Chieftain version because I haven't played it. I kind of want to mess around with, like, an Occultist version because I don't think anyone's ever gone Occultist. I kind of want to play some Poison Bladefall Blade Blast. I'm just genuinely surprised that after having played a triggered version of this, I've played a Spellslinger Bladefall Blade Blast in the past. I was worried that self-cast Bladefall Blade Blast wasn't going to feel as good. I was worried that I was just going to feel like a bad Essence Drain Contagion along those lines. This build far exceeded my expectations. I will put the name of the person who was in the Awakener Race, because I totally yoinked this build from them. I was skeptical of it, and I wanted to try it out, so I just tried it out. Turns out they made some amazingly good choices. So I'm happy to recommend this to anyone. Regarding Glancing Blows, we can talk about this for just a moment. I don't think Glancing Blows should be on most skill trees. Glancing Blows is excellent if you have like about 30 block, about 30 spell block, and a recovery shield. Some kind of shield that says like recover life, recover ES when you block. I don't have that. I just have this mopey life +1 fizz spell shield here. I can show you what this looks like. So here's why we don't take this, right? We can take a look at the calculations. Let's turn off Immortal Call. Let's turn off Fortify, right? Let's say we're just running around and we haven't procced our Fortify, we haven't shield charged yet. Right now we have 52 effective HP, 52,000 effective HP against fizz hits. We click on this, we double our block chance. But we go from 52 effective HP down to 46 effective HP. We lose effective HP against fizz damage hits, and actually against all damage hits, when we take Glancing Blows, because it's no longer double the block chance, half the damage taken. It's now double the block chance, 65% of the damage taken. If you are proccing something on block, if you have recovery on block, maybe if you're a necromancer and you have bone offering, which gives you life on block, maybe if you have an insane recovery mechanism, maybe if you've like totally like spec'd into like life leech or spell damage leeches life, or like tons of recovery from some other kind of mechanism, maybe then you can convince me that Glancing Blows is worthwhile, because Glancing Blows, what it does is it softens the blow on average of how much damage you're taking in, so maybe your recovery mechanism can shoot back up and recover more life over time. But man, even then, I don't really like it. I don't really like it. Glancing Blows is not what it used to be. I still see a lot of people taking it. The other benefit that's worth mentioning is Glancing Blows does bump up the numeric value for your block chance. So if you're trying to scale damage with something like Arcane Swiftness, or scaling damage with something like Command of Steel down here, 1% increased damage for 1% chance to block attack damage, then yeah, I guess it's notable, but by and large, I think builds should not have this, which is why that me in hardcore playing this build to level 94, I also opted not to take this. Shout out to Staves for also never, ever, ever taking this. This is not something that you take on a staff-based build. Cool. Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? Pathing, Jewels, Corrupting Blood, chance to get Onslaught on kill. Anything else here? Why did I anoint this? Because it's cheap. That's why. Don't at me. I guess speaking of anoints, just for one moment here, we can talk about the anoint thing here. If you haven't used this in the past, you know, here's your here's me pointing it out for you. You can come in POB to your talisman. You can click on the anoint menu. You can click on sort by. You can sort by DPS. You can sort by bleed DPS, ignite DPS. You can even scroll down, sort by life, sort by dexterity. You can sort by effective HP versus physical hits. There's all sorts of things that you can do, chat. Steelwood stance. Armor if you blocked recently. That's actually kind of cool. I don't mind that. So, the anoint menu works. I think some people still haven't caught on that this is here, but there, it works. You should use it. Is there anything else? That about covers it. We good? I'm gonna scroll through chat for just a moment to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think I missed anything. I think I've said every single relevant piece of information. Listen, I don't like playing the same build twice because something's wrong with me. I'll probably never play this again, but I totally would. I would be happy to recommend this to build to people. Oftentimes, I get stuck playing builds that are kind of memes or kind of just bad versions of something else, and I wouldn't really recommend those to you. So, I think this one, 10 out of 10 would recommend if you're looking for a tanky option. Given my my conversation between myself and somebody who just recently played Chieftain, Bladefall Blade Blast in hardcore as well, it sounds like I liked my build a lot more than he liked his build. So, just saying. Other things to say? I kind of want to play an occultist version. I kind of want to use some profane bloom and get that going on. But I'm worried that the occultist version doesn't have any cast speed in the Ascendancy. So it gives me a little bit of pause because there's a ton of cast speed down here. But I guess we'll keep experimenting. We'll see how it goes. We're good? Oh my god, the affinity folders. The stash tab folders and the affinity stuff is up. Okay, good YouTube video. I'll put stuff in the comments. Go check it out there. Stream, twitch.tv/, what is this? Perry the Pig. All right, we'll see you there sometime. Great.